Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nitchman.
Today on Savvy Business Radio, we have Jerry Holl joining us, an award-winning author, professional speaker, independent business consultant, and weekend warrior. Today, Jerry shares his exciting, life-altering experiences from his solo cycling trip from Alaska to Mexico. Get a copy of Jerry's award-winning new book at downhillsdon'tcomefree.com. Hi, Jerry. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. It's such a pleasure to have you here today.
It's really great to be here, Christina.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to hear your story and for you to share it with our audience at 57 years of age, that you want to try something really new and bike across North America, which is really awesome because you didn't really have a lot of training. You're not like a professional cyclist, but you also wrote a book about your experiences, Downhills Don't Come Free, which is one man's bike ride from Alaska to Mexico. And I'm sure it was quite a journey and stories you have to share in your book. Share with the audience a little bit about your backstory. What kind of prompted you to take this excursion?
My undergrad degree is in engineering, and then I got an MBA. So I spent my life in sales and marketing and sales marketing leadership. And after 33 years of the business world, I just felt like every deal I did felt the same. And it didn't matter which companies I went to. I had like 4 major careers, changing industries, changing companies, but it all started feeling the same. And I thought there was no kick to the step anymore to complete the deal. I'd already done that. How are you going to live the fullest life? What are you going to do differently that makes it feel like in the end days when you're looking back, I lived a fuller life? And then along the same thing, I felt like I was plateauing. I wasn't as hungry as I was. And it came across to me that if you're not growing, you're dying. So I felt
just
like
like
a starting place. So I had to figure out, what am I going to do differently to remake myself, to re-energize, reinvigorate, and do something that I'd never done before that was completely different than anything I'd ever done. And along with that, I've read every adventure book ever written, and I say that figuratively, but I've seen the pickles that women and men have gotten themselves into, and you can't help but place yourself into that position and say, what would I do? How would I have acted in that situation? There's only one way to know. Go do something.
Absolutely.
And so I resigned, and within 30 days of resignation, I was on a flight from Minneapolis to Alaska, and I was going to, the next day, pedal out of Anchorage into the unknown on something that I'd never done before. I didn't train for. I wasn't a distance cyclist. I didn't have cycling clothes. I never packed my bike in Minnesota. I never ridden in clips. I'd never done any of it. When the first day I pedaled out of Anchorage, first day I'd ever ridden a loaded bike in clips and with biking clothes on. And I was just relying on my judgment to figure out what I was going to run into and how I would handle eventualities as they came up. Yeah.
Well, what I love about this, Jerry, and apologies about getting your field of business wrong. I was like, where did I get attorney? But but we're a business show. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but
why insult me that way? I'm just kidding.
your new life, yeah. But what's interesting here is that so many people think, well, I'll do the mountain climbing someday, or I'll fly that plane, just when I read enough books about it, or I feel like I'm ready to jump. And sometimes what you got to do is just take the leap. And not to say to get in the plane without training. I'm not saying that, no. But I'm saying sometimes we wait so long for all the stars to align, to read enough books, to go to enough seminars, that we don't actually take action in our lives. And that could be business or anything. And sometimes you just need to, as Nike likes to say with their logo, just do it.
The business parallels are immense in the sense of too many people try and overplan, overthink it, overanalyze, overagonize as to whether I'm ready to go. you know what? Forget it. Just dive in and get the big things right and adjust and use your judgment along the way. What you find out in these kinds of journeys, whether it's an adventure, whether it's physical, or whether it's business, dive in and rely on your judgment and be ready to let the eventualities help lead you, but use your judgment to make adjustments along the way instead of overthinking, over planning, over analyzing, and wasting your time instead of being in the action. So go get the action.
Yeah, because, in all actuality, you might not have very long on this planet. I mean, I'm near 50, and a lot of people, say to me, one gal came on the show a couple years ago, said, I wrote a blog called 6 Months to Live, because my idea was, what if I only had 6 months to live and I knew it, that from 6 months to this day, I won't be on this planet? Would I be living differently? And I bet you most people would be living differently. They might take that bike ride. They might climb that mountain, because the best time is now.
I totally agree with you. And, I was 57 at the time. So, and I didn't train for this. I didn't try and get ready. I mean, in full disclosure, I was in decent shape, but not in biking shape. I didn't do anything specifically for biking. I just got on the bike and started pedaling. But you're right. You don't know when your last day is going to be. And it's not that I had this foreboding feeling that my days are numbered, but I am in the last trimester of my life now. And how are you going to live as vibrantly and vicariously as you possibly can and not wait for someone to make the rest of your life for you? You've got to go make your life. And if you wait for someone else to give you leadership or to structure your life, you're going to be waiting a long time. So just go and get in the action and move, and you are better and smarter. You can do more than you think. I thought I was capable. What I learned on this journey is I was so much more capable than I ever even thought. It's astounding. And everybody's got these innate skills that a big stretch journey by default uncovers. It just happens as a natural outcome. So don't overthink it. Just move.
I like that you mentioned that, Jerry, because even when I got started with my business, there were people who be like, well, let's just wait till, a little bit more money in the bank. Same with having a family. Well, maybe you should save a bit money, buy that house first. And, the time is now. I mean, sometimes the waiting, you'll wait and then time will come and go. You'll be on your deathbed going, if only. And you don't want to be thinking, if only I'd done this, if only I'd had that date with that person, or got married, or bought that house, or had that bike trip. You want to be able to live to the fullest and to give your best in this life.
Listen to elderly people. When you talk to them in their sunset, every one of them in one fashion or another goes into some form of, I should have tried. And it becomes a statement of regrets. If I would have only done this, not that they thought that they lived a bad life, but I think I could have done more. I should have taken this leap when it was available. They didn't have the guts to do it or whatever. And there's always a statement of regrets. Listen to that. Pay attention to it. And then say to yourself, how am I going to minimize or eliminate regrets from this point forward?
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because my one thing I wanted to do, and it was a great passion of mine, it was actually a great fear of mine, that was flying. And I said at 2006, I'm done with this being scared to death of flying commercial liners. I love to travel. How about we kick this fear in the bucket this year and I take some flying lessons? And I absolutely totally fell in love with flying, and now I want to do it every day. I don't want to become a professional pilot, but I love to be in the air. But it wouldn't have happened had I not pushed myself. But the sad thing is, my great uncle, who was on his deathbed, saw me taking flying lessons, and he said that had always been something he wanted to do and didn't do, and he regretted it. And you don't want to be there.
No, you really don't want to do that. And the thing is, what people worry about, their fears are figments of their imagination. The boogeyman is always bigger in your mind than it really is. So forget the boogeyman. Why not? Why aren't you the tough guy? Why does someone else get to be the dominant role? Why don't you be the tough guy and walk tall and walk with purpose and say the boogeyman's going to fear me? That's really what you've got. That's kind of the attitude that you've got to take. And what you find out in a journey like this is it was less about planning. It was more about an attitude that I can do this. I actually, I think I can pull this off. And people tried to talk me out of this because of their fears. And so the first questions everybody asks is, are you bringing a gun? Are you insane? What would compel you to do this? We think you're nuts. That kind of stuff. Every one of them was a statement of discouragement, if you will. But what you've got to think in your mind is, you know what may be incapable for them can be fully within my capabilities. Don't let someone else run what you think your own capabilities might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And when you were going about it, you said you hadn't really trained for cycling. Was the physical part the hardest, or was there other bits as you were going through the journey that you found harder for you than you expected?
Well, I mean, the physical side of it, going from Alaska to Mexico, so it wasn't across the country, west to east or east to west. It was north to south. It was 3,634 miles. Everything, what I did is I picked a journey that I thought would be immaculately beautiful. But with that, it means that you are going to be in mountains the whole way because you're riding right on the margin of tectonic zones. You know, when you're thinking about geology and plate tectonics, well, the rumbles of the earth is all mountains. And so it's grueling physically, but it's really a mental trip. Wow. But you know what? The mental wasn't all that hard for me. There were times when I was immensely strong, and there were times when I was weak. And I'm talking about physically. And days that I was on, like I felt like the day would never end, and I could just ride all through the night. And other days where I just couldn't get anywhere. That's normal life. But what I always felt throughout it all, people asked me, was there any moments where you thought, I can't do this, or any moments where you broke down, if you will? And I actually thought, no, because after knowing what 33 years of being in meetings, offices, that kind of stuff, I said, would I rather be there or here? But even a bigger thing came down to, how many people do you know that are ill or injured who would give anything for your tough days? That my toughest days are better mentally and physically, are better than many people's best days. How can you, so when my toughest days are better than their best, how can you say this is not anything but the most fabulous thing you can be attempting right now?
I like that you bring this up, because I think in any one's life, no matter what life you're living, whether you're a mom or you're in a business as an employee or owning a business, it's really like looking at it from the perspective of your gifts that you have before you. You're granted, most people I know have good health. They're not in severe bad health or a terminal illness. And they also, have a roof over their head and clothes and family that love them. Your life isn't that bad. But often, myself included, we get stuck on the small things and we're like, complaining about this and that instead of realizing the blessings we have.
Totally true. And it's so funny because, I ran into problem after problem. I had 20 bear encounters. I had 2 moose encounters. I had a cougar lurking near my camp one morning. I had myriads of frontier strangers. I had brutal weather, brutal headwinds. Sometimes I had to pedal my downhills, all those things. But the way I looked at any problem that came up or anything that I faced, and it's changing by the moment, I just thought, if this doesn't kill or maim me, it's a little thing. So why not take that attitude into everything? Like, there's so many little things that people blow into big things. And really, an ill or an injured friend or family member, that's a big thing. There are very, very few big things in life, and everybody blows the little things up into big things. And when things are really going well for you, then little things even become bigger, in the sense that people worry about things regardless of whether they happen. Don't worry about those things. If it doesn't kill or maim you, or somebody around you and near you is not in trouble, it's all a little thing.
Yeah.
And they're all fabulous experiences, whether it's successful or not. Even the failures have a element of humor in them, which you can tell those stories to make them come alive. And what happened in the book, here's a really funny story relative to that. So I have, and I'm not going to blow the book for you or your audience, but I had a failure at the very end of the journey. And after riding 3,634 miles, people didn't want to hear about all my successes and how tremendous and how great it was. They wanted to see where I blew up. And what happened when I blew up, and how did that happen, and how did I get out of it? And that's when, at a dinner party, they all kind of move away when you tell them how great and strong. But when you tell them when you blow up, that's when they crack another beer and come in close and want to hear more and how you got out of it. And then it creates empathy, and it creates connections, and it creates meaningful conversations, and it creates trust. And then people want to be around and do business with who they trust. It's amazing. So let your deficiencies and your failures show your human side, and have fun with it and laugh it up. You'll endear people to you that is good for business.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great analogy. I recall when I first got started with my business, I wrote a blog called 101 Mistakes on What I Learned in Business. It was hard to come up with 101 mistakes. I realized a lot of the mistakes I made were similar. I was like, it's kind of the same type of mistake. I got to look at that. But what was interesting about it is when I wrote it, I was just doing an exercise from a book, a self-help book I was reading, and I started to actually put it into a blog form, and people loved it. They glommed onto, I love that mistake you made. But of course, it was then, what did I learn from it, and what am I going to try to do better? And my other friends were like, oh my gosh, no one's going to want to do business with you, and they see all your flub ups. But the thing is, yeah, they do, because everyone flubs up, everyone makes mistakes, and you can relate to a person that makes mistakes.
They want your success, but they want to relate to the mistakes. That's in many ways, that's where the fun and the humor is. So make fun of it unless there's some tragedy, and there's very, 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 very few things that are a tragedy.
Yeah. And sometimes they're not really. Yeah, Jerry. I mean, sometimes in life, it's not even just mistakes. It's sometimes just not being aware. Like, I'm sure I don't know how it went for you in your bike journey, but for me and my partner have flown around the U.S. and we've done silly things where, like, we live in New York City, so we think everything in the whole world is open all night long, and we forget when we live this area that the rest of the world does a thing called sleep, eh? And so we've traveled somewhere like West Virginia one time, and they closed at an insane time for us, 9 p.m. And I didn't think when I left the airport or that facility that I should go to the bathroom before I did. And we got stuck out there in the tarmac, and I had to go to the bathroom. There's no airport nearby. Everything's locked. I'm like, Yeah, but stuff like that, you just like, okay, next time, let's be prepared. Let's think ahead. Let's broaden your perspective. And that brings me to ask you, did this broaden your perspective in life and people and culture?
Totally. I mean, what you find out, one of the themes you find out is discomfort isn't danger. I was uncomfortable a lot. I was cold. I was wet. I was hungry. I was exhausted. So what? I'm not going to die. I mean, one day I rode 100 miles, and I thought I pegged late in the day a town, maybe 25 miles further. I always felt like I had 25 more miles in me if I needed it. And actually, you have about 100 more miles in you if you really need it, and you really do. But the net of it is, when I got to what I thought was going to be a town, there was no town. Sun was down, it's dark, and there's no place to camp. I pitched my tent in a field. And I looked in my bag. All I had in my bag after riding 100 miles was an orange. And so it took me about an hour to eat that orange. And I felt like an ape in an ape house, when they eat their fruit. It's in their mouth, it's out of their mouth, it's upside down in their mouth, it's and it took me about an hour to eat that orange as I just kind of nursed it and played with it, if you will. And I said, God, I'm not too far from an ape. But the net of it is, I wasn't going to die. It's just uncomfortable. I was hungry all night long. But I'm not going to die. It's just so run with those things and make sure you know the difference between discomfort and danger. And discomfort doesn't kill you, but it does create those areas of empathy again that we mentioned a few minutes ago.
And I like that, the difference between danger and discomfort, because one thing I found in my life is that we get so stuck, like we talked earlier, in the little things that we are so, I know you might see this even where you are, where people are like, down in their head and texting all day long, that they're not engaged with life. And you can miss danger coming into your life by just being so not present.
Right. Right. So, I mean, it's interesting, when you'd come across people and situations that you just come upon them, and the stories are every day. I've got different stories, and they're all laid out in my book, Downhills Don't Come Free. And I think people would find the variation and the difference in the stories and what you come across and how you've got to deal with them really intriguing and interesting and actually funny and fun. But what you find out is just trust yourself. You've got so much more experience and capability to deal with all these things than you think you have. And there's only a few situations where I was not in control, in my opinion. And one of them was a mama grizzly and 2 cubs, and I came upon her, and she was about somewhere between 30 and 50 feet away, and I'm just at her whim. And luckily, it would have been a different book if something else would have happened. But luckily, I got through the situation, and you just have to kind of do what you think is right. But it was up to her as to what my fate was going to be, because she could have had what she wanted.
Oh la la, yeah, that is true. And to really sweat things when they do come into your life that you don't have control over, you can't fix it. Leave it alone. Just keep moving. You know,
yeah. Trust yourself to do the right stuff there. So many people second guess themselves. And even if it's not a perfect decision, moving and doing things and adjusting is, I couldn't contemplate every eventuality. You can't possibly plan and get ready for every little thing. So don't worry about them. Throw them out of your mind and come across them, and trust yourself to make good judgments as you come across them. And it works for you better than you might ever think. Yeah. And if it's a business standpoint, always err to the customer. The customer is, customers are good. They're not trying to take advantage of you. They will pay for value. Err to their advantage, and they will remember that, and they will do repeat, recurring business, and they will remember you and give you great references, all that kind of stuff. So there's business parallels in every little situation I ran into in the book. So if you read the book, I hate business books, but if you think about business and you look at this journey, you can see the attitudes in this book apply straight across the board to every business situation you're in.
Yeah. And has this journey really helped you be a better businessman?
Totally.
And person? Oh.
Totally. It helps you in a lot of ways. One, that you have a confidence that there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, but this gives you a confidence that you actually can do anything. Because instead of it just becoming a intellectual construct that you can do anything, and it's just one of those little sappy little posters on a wall in a yoga poster, this actually, because you have to live it and you do it and then you get through it, it becomes part of your fabric of your personality. And what I thought was big and daunting and audacious up front, now, Christina, this doesn't feel like that big a deal to me. So that just shows you how you expanded and how you look at things, not because I was looking to go do self-help, but it's a natural outcome of doing stretch type stuff, trusting yourself and acting on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you look back and you're like, what more can I accomplish? Like, this is not the end. I can always grow even more. And there's even more potential there.
Well, there's always another journey. So I felt like, so people asked me when I got home, all right, what's next? And I didn't quite know, but my daughter made me write a blog, and I didn't want to write a blog on the trip. And I said to her name is Julia. I said, Julia, where I'm going, if I write a blog, there's no cell towers anyway. I don't know how I'm going to get this blog out to you. But as it turned out, I'd find little Wi-Fi connections along the way in some of the truck stops and that kind of stuff, and I'd squeeze it out, and people would let me into it. But anyway, with that blog, all of a sudden I've had 14,000 hits on my blog that I didn't know, and people are responding to me saying, dude, you got to write the book. Well, I said, I'm not a writer. I've never written anything. I don't want to write a book. I didn't do this to write a book. I didn't do this for self-help. I just wanted to see what I was made of. And if you're not growing, you're dying. I knew I'd grow. I just didn't know how. So when I got home, I said, okay, what's my next stretch? And people kept saying, we'd get up in the morning, read your blog every day, have our coffee. We couldn't wait to find out what happened the previous day. And so then I thought about it. I said, well, maybe I will write the book. So I wrote a manuscript, and I gave it, and I didn't give it to anybody. except one woman who I really admired, respected, and knew she'd give me a straight shot on it. And I said, read the manuscript, tell me what you think. So she read the manuscript. I ran into her about a week later, and I said, well, what do you think about my masterpiece? And she looks at me, and she's got this deadpan look, and she says, it sucks.
Oh, God.
It sucks. So what's going to happen is people are going to tell you that you're not up to snuff, that this isn't going to work, that kind of stuff. But I knew in my heart of hearts, I wasn't undaunted. I knew in my heart of hearts, I have the stories. So how do I retell these stories in on 100% authenticity? Everything in the book absolutely happened in the authentic way it's told. I said, so how do I cast this story to make it, why am I telling this piece of the story? Why is someone else going to care? How am I going to make it stand out, and how am I going to make that story come alive? So I rewrote the manuscript and continued to recast it. And through, like authors will tell you, 8 or 9 rewrites.
Wow.
Submit the book. Well, lo and behold, now the book has been out for just over 1 year now. I've got 2 international book awards on literary excellence. I've never written jack. That's what you can do. That's all part of the same attitude.
Yeah.
It's an attitude. And she told me it sucks. I could have shriveled into the corner and sucked my thumb. No, just, I got the stories. Trust yourself.
Yeah.
Go make it come alive.
Yeah. And what I love about that, there's been a lot of business failures. And when I've had some of the great businesses that have been exploded, now they're billion-dollar companies, whatever it might be, they tell me, hey, I had a whole bunch of failures before I got this. And then even when I launched the success, to be where I am today was 25-year journey. It wasn't 1 year. And so often, yeah, totally.
No, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sometimes we'll look and we'll see the end result. We'll see that, Amazon story, and we'll like, oh, well, they just came out of the horses, whatever, when the horse launches. Anyway, the gate, yeah, they'll come right out of the gate and be successful. And no, we don't see the backstory that, no, it wasn't right out of the gate success. They had to work really hard for many, many years. What we see is the end result is now there's super huge success. So to remember that, hey, you get knocked down once, get back up, try again, and see how you can fix it and keep going. And don't take this failure as a that's it. Just refuse to accept no.
You can't help but learn on them, and just think about it. The world is moving so fast now, and you see disruptive businesses everywhere. You see the cloud disrupting, old equipment sellers like an IBM. The cloud, Amazon Cloud, and those guys are disrupting big major businesses. You see disruption everywhere. Well, if you feel like in your own life, every day feels too much the same, disrupt yourself. And how are you going to do that? Don't wait for a little, no offense on the self-help books, but don't go read 12 books. Take a big stretch, whether it's business, intellectual, I'm going to sing at the church, I'm going to take a bike ride, I'm going to climb a mountain, whatever it is, take a big stretch and go. You can't help but disrupt yourself, change your thinking, your outlook, how you would look at things. And you want change management? That's how you change, is to get in the action and go and get tumbled and beat up and enjoy the ride. Enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And failures are, they just don't even hurt that bad.
No, they don't. No, you don't let it hurt you. Just get out, wipe your knees off, keep going.
So the most successful businesses now are ones that have disrupted the people that had the inside track to creating the disruption, and they didn't. So go disrupt yourself from a personal standpoint. You will grow and expand in ways. My future now, based on this journey, I didn't contemplate where it's going. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't do this. Look at the people it introduces you to, and the opportunities and the areas that blossom that would have never happened if you don't go disrupt yourself.
Absolutely. Well, this has been such a fascinating talk. I'm so excited to read your book, which you sent me. I'm so excited that you sent it to me. I'm going to read it. Everyone, go get your own copy, downhillsdon'tcomefree.com, and find out how you can disrupt yourself. And like I did, I was sick and tired of being scared of flying. I love to fly. That challenged me. That pushed me to the brinks of uncomfortableness. Go do your own uncomfortableness and disrupt yourself. And Jerry, I just have to thank you again for coming to share your great wisdom and story today on Savvy Business Radio.
Well, thank you, Christina, and I hope your audience enjoys the interview. And I'm glad you're flying because look at the places it brings you, and that's what this journey did. So
Absolutely.
Go create your own journey, and thank you so much for having me on.
You betcha.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.